As the lead singer for the Smiths, Morrissey was an unparalleled lyricist who helped create several timeless classics like Ask and How Soon Is Now. More recently, he's arguably become more famous for his wince-inducing sound bites than his solo output. Here are some messed up details about Morrissey. Pro tip, amateur writers, the next time you find yourself plagued by self-doubt, take solace in the fact that your work can't be any worse than Morrissey's debut novel. List of the Lost was published in 2015, hot on the heels of Morrissey's autobiography. The book was widely panned and endlessly ridiculed for reasons that will soon become all too apparent. In its breathtakingly scathing review, The Quietist wrote that, "What you're actually looking at is some of the most heinously overblown prose printed by a major publishing house in living memory." Aside from its general awfulness, List of the Lost caught the world's attention thanks to a particularly cringe-inducing scene, one that tried to convey a theoretically steamy lovemaking session. Don't believe us? You should probably savor the passage for yourself. How's this for purple prose? Eliza and Ezra rolled together into the one giggling snowball of full-figured copulation, screaming and shouting as they playfully bit and pulled at each other in a dangerous and clamorous roller coaster coil of violent rotation, and the pained frenzy of his bulbous salutation extenuating his excitement as it smacked its way into every muscle of Eliza's body except for the otherwise central zone. Ooh, is it getting hot in here? No, it's not. There are plenty of people in the world who love nothing more than chowing down on raw, red, dripping steak, and Morrissey is absolutely not one of them. There's a reason why Meat is Murder is the name of the Smiths' second studio album. In 2009, Morrissey told Russell Brand why people shouldn't eat animals.
They look to us for protection, and they look to us for love and understanding, and what do people do? Lead them into the abattoir and chop their heads off.
A lifelong vegetarian, Morrissey's concerts are almost as famous for their occasional unscripted rants about meat consumption as they are for his music. For example, there was that time he declared at Coachella,
"I can smell burning flesh, and I hope to God it's human."
But caring about animals is one thing, and caring about your fellow human beings is entirely another. In a 2010 interview with The Guardian, Morrissey made a remark about the poor treatment of animals in Chinese zoos and circuses, saying, "Did you see that thing on the news about their treatment of animals and animal welfare? Absolutely horrific. You can't help but feel that the Chinese are a subspecies." There are many ways he could have finished that sentence without being culturally insensitive and creating a media storm. Instead, he decided to insult an entire nation. Clearly, Morrissey is a controversial figure on the very best of days. Here he is waxing poetic on people who take their own life.
Just taking control and saying no more of this silliness. And it's admirable.
But that's positively fluffy when compared to some of his other sound bites over the years, like when he decided to use a tragedy in a truly tasteless way. On July 22, 2011, a far-right terrorist killed 77 people in Norway with a combined bomb and gun attack. As news of the massacre traveled around the world, it left stunned silence and heartbreak in its wake. Meanwhile, Morrissey used the tragedy to champion his pet cause. On stage in Warsaw a few days later, he said of the massacre, "We all live in a murderous world, as the events in Norway have shown, though that is nothing compared to what happens in McDonald's and Kentucky Fried every day." To be fair, Morrissey later made a point of saying that he thought the massacre was horrific, which should really go without saying. The point is, it's totally inappropriate to compare McDonald's to an act of terrorism, especially right on the heels of such a horrific tragedy. Is Morrissey a difficult person? Morrissey seems to think so.
So you would be quite daunting company, I would have thought.
Yes, extremely, which is why lots of people don't like me.
In fall 2017, a newspaper story was published about Harvey Weinstein and his alleged penchant for assaulting women. It quickly unleashed a tsunami of accusations against the movie mogul. Dozens of women came forward and claimed that Weinstein had attacked them in one way or another. By late November, the Me Too movement had taken off, and the world was finally listening to people who'd been allegedly harassed by him. However, there was one glaring exception. That same month, Morrissey basically defended Weinstein in an interview with Germany's Der Spiegel, more or less accusing the accusers. While discussing the reports of Weinstein inviting actresses into his hotel room, Morrissey commented, "People know exactly what's going on and they play along. Afterwards, they feel embarrassed or disliked, and then they turned it around and said, 'I was attacked, I was surprised.' But if everything went well and it had given them a great career, they would not talk about it." Margaret Thatcher was not a particularly popular prime minister, to put it gently. Plenty of Brits are still incredibly divided on her premiership, to the extent that tens of thousands of people celebrated her death by buying copies of the song Ding Dong the Witch is Dead. In fact, the song even wound up charting in 2013 in the wake of her death.
number 10 in the midweek charts yesterday. I've looked, it's currently number 1 on iTunes.
Let it suffice to say, Morrissey wasn't a fan of Thatcher. In 1998, he released a song that all but pleaded for Thatcher to be beheaded. The song in question, Margaret on the Guillotine, closes out his debut solo album, Viva Hate. And the song isn't exactly a study in nuance and subtlety. It contains such lyrics as, "The kind people have a wonderful dream, Margaret on the guillotine, when will you die?" It's also an entirely unveiled request for the masses to rise up and make it real, make the dream real. The song got Morrissey into a fair spot of trouble. In fact, Scotland Yard even took it upon themselves to question him over the lyrics, as he revealed in his autobiography. According to the Daily Mail, the ex-Smith star was cross-examined by the force's special branch. At the end of the day, it's a rather grim move on Morrissey's part, regardless of your own personal political beliefs. Just look at the situation through the lens of today's political climate. What if a major pop star suddenly dropped a song called Hillary on the Guillotine, or say Trump on the chopping block? People would have a few thoughts about that. In 1986, Morrissey was interviewed by Melody Maker and made a particularly outrageous claim. For a bit of context here, the interview followed the release of the Smiths single Panic, a jangly pop confection that was nevertheless attached to lyrics like "Burn down the disco, hang the blessed DJ, because the music that they constantly play, it says nothing to me about my life." Those lyrics proved quite controversial, with Melody Maker claiming that the song is the most explicit denunciation yet of black pop. Morrissey was asked if he believed that there was some sort of, quote, black pop conspiracy taking place in the music industry, and did he think this so-called conspiracy was keeping the Smiths from becoming more successful. Morrissey replied point blank, "Yes, I really do." In the same interview, he stated, "Obviously, to get on top of the pops these days, one has to be by law black. I think as a result that very aware younger groups that speak for now are being gagged." Along the same lines, Morrissey said, "Ultimately, I don't have very cast-iron opinions on black music other than black modern music, which I detest. I detest Stevie Wonder. I think Diana Ross is awful. I hate all those records in the top 40, Janet Jackson, Whitney Houston. I think they're vile in the extreme. In essence, this music doesn't say anything whatsoever." Is Morrissey being ironic here? Well, put in context, it certainly doesn't seem like it. In 1992, he told Q magazine, "I don't really think black people and white people will ever really get on or like each other." And here he's talking about Barack Obama in 2015.
So, Obama, is he white inside? It's a very logical question, but I think he probably is.
What's the first thing that pops into your head when you hear the name James Baldwin? Is it the writer's powerful novels like Go Tell It on the Mountain? Or perhaps it's his famous civil rights work alongside Martin Luther King Jr.? In 2017, Morrissey's solo tour was accompanied by a piece of merchandise that could charitably be called questionable. He put an image of James Baldwin's face on a t-shirt alongside a lyric from the 1986 Smiths song Unlovable. "I wear black on the outside because black is how I feel on the inside." So that didn't go over all that well. Pitchfork wrote that the new t-shirt can definitely be seen as problematic. Meanwhile, the independent publisher Melville House abruptly wrote that this particular shirt is a regrettable misfire of internet mashup culture, in which the curated mingling of disparate words and images devalue one another rather than enrich one another. The For Britain movement is a far-right party that was founded in October 2017. And what is this particular party about? In the words of the New Zealand Herald, For Britain's website calls for a reduction of immigration in the UK, the end of the Islamization of the UK, and the protection of British culture. The party is led by far-right politician Anne-Marie Waters, who has previously described Islam as evil. Well, Morrissey supports For Britain like it's going out of style, rather than coming into style. In 2019, the singer even wore a For Britain pin while performing on The Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon. Morrissey was roundly criticized for using his fame to promote the party, which reportedly invites Holocaust deniers to speak at conferences. Far from apologizing, Morrissey chose to effectively double down on his support in an interview posted on his own website, Morrissey Central. The UK is a dangerously hateful place now, and I think we need someone to put a stop to the lunacy and to speak for everyone. I see For Britain leader Anne-Marie Waters as this person. He also shrugged off accusations of racism in the same interview, saying that if you call someone racist in modern Britain, you are telling them that you have run out of words. You are shutting the debate down and running off. The word is meaningless now. Everyone ultimately prefers their own race. Does this make everyone racist? Plenty of public figures are worthy of scorn, but the Queen of England? For the man who brought you such songs as The Queen is Dead, the answer is unreservedly, unequivocally yes. Sure, her permanently peeved expression is endlessly amusing, but is she really as bad as, say, Muammar Gaddafi? Morrissey evidently thinks she's on the same level as the late dictator. The year was 2011, and Queen Elizabeth II had just undertaken a state visit to Ireland. In the magazine Hot Press, Morrissey took the opportunity to lament how, in his mind, if not in the real world, Queen Liz was supposedly running her own brutal dictatorship. Here's how he put it. The very existence of the Queen is entirely against any notion of democracy and is against freedom of speech. For a broad historical view of what the Queen is and how she rules, examine Gaddafi and see if you can spot any difference. This was far from a one-off comment. In an interview with The Telegraph that same year, he said, "The Queen is the ultimate dictator. And of course, if the British people decided tomorrow that the Queen must go, then the Queen wouldn't hesitate to turn her tanks on the British people." So yeah, it's safe to say that Morrissey isn't the biggest fan of the royal family.
The arrogance of the British royals is staggering. Absolutely staggering.
The irony of it all. Check out one of our newest videos right here. Plus, even more grunge videos about your favorite stars are coming soon. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell so you don't miss a single one.